So, hi, hello, vanakkam to my viewers. This is Tambi and I'm your host, Kaustubh Tonpe. You're listening to a podcast, Cinematic Conversations with Pranav. So Pranav is a film enthusiastic and also a short film director. And he's my cousin brother. So, I invited him, and with his insights, we discussed few things about Indian cinemas and why the duration is so long when compared to Hollywood movies, and what what makes a hero and anti-hero, what is the ingredients of a gangster movie, and how does a gangster movie influence the Indian cinemas in general. So we concluded with some observations at the end. So thank you for listening. So hello viewers, welcome to Thumbnails again. So आज हम नया टॉपिक लेके आए डिस्कस करने, दैट इज अबाउट इंडियन मूवीज एंड इंडियन सिनेमास. So as it is a Friday and Navratri's, which day it is? Last third, I guess.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I don't know because too many days I'm at home and there's no count of days to me. So all days are same. All days are Sunday to me right now. So okay, I think it's Friday is a good day to start and talk about movies because it's a 3 days weekend, full rush to movies, and we can talk about n number of movies. So Pranav, what do you think it is apt to call it as Indian movies or Indian cinemas? Like,
okay, first of
what
all,
do you
hi
call?
Kaustubh, and hi to your listeners. And yes, answering your question, do you call it Indian movies or Indian cinema? I don't think there's much of a difference. Whatever we want to call it, that's whatever that is what it is.
No, but it's not about word, it's about emotions, right? So which word carries that emotions? Like a movie or a cinema, which word carries that film emotion?
See, for me, I like to use the word film. Okay, like just Indian film or North Indian film. I don't use cinema. I don't use movies. Because like when you talk about film, the first image that comes in my mind is the actual film, the real thing, and that's the usually when you say cinemas, they're associated to a theater. At least in the West, they say I'm going to the cinemas today. We say I'm going to the theater today. And movies also, yes, but the thing is, movies, there's a lot of form. There's TV movies, there's all kinds of movies. Just using the word film gives me a lot of it's a very fun word to say, I think.
So when you talk about any, when you mention about Hollywood genre of movies, so I have one doubt. That's initial doubt to me. That is, why is the time duration different? Like the time duration of Hollywood movies are about 1 hour, 1.5 hour, like 90 minutes and so on. But when you come to Indian films, it's around 2 hours 40 minutes, right, or 2 hours 30 minutes, sometimes 3 hours also. Like TNR Tiger Narration, it's 3 hours. So why is that shift? Like one idea or the one answer I think about is Hollywood movies doesn't contain any songs or dance number. Like just because of that the time duration is increased, or is there any new thing? So why is the time duration?
From what I know, I think back in the 60s, 70s, even in Hollywood, you look at Godfather 1, 2, or 3. They're all more than 3 hours long. I remember Godfather 2 was like 3 hours 26 minutes long. Then even Apocalypse Now, the original Coppola's cut was 3 hour cut. And that being said, again, it's not like what you're saying isn't valid. You have movies like Taxi Driver that were barely 70 to 80 minutes long. Now, the thing is, none of the Hollywood films, barring, if I'm not wrong, barring Godfather 2, none of them have an intermission, right? I know you probably wanted to come to this in a while, but it is relevant to what we're talking about. The thing is, they didn't have the concept of intermissions because I think it's interrelated. Their films were shorter, so running the reel while the movie was going on in the theater was an easier task. Whereas for our people, at least down here in the East, not India specifically, all around Bangladesh or East Asia, that's Thailand areas, people had to run the reels over there. People had to sit in the projector room and move around. Today, of course, it's all digital and it's been decades since that's there. But when they had to manually do it, they needed a break. So doing that for a 60-minute film, which would mean, let's say, a 90-minute film, so that would mean that you'd get the first break in a 45 minute. The viewer would not get that experience. The dude could run the reel for an hour and a half, at least anywhere between 1 to 1.5 hours. That is why you see all the older movies, that is all the, at least off the top of my head, the Sholay or Maya Bazaar or anything during that time, they're all 3 hour long. There was a rule that each film should have 5 songs and 3 fights at a minimum. So these were like, only if you did this will audience come. People will come for the fights, people will come for the songs. People will not exactly come for the screenplay.
So commercial movies.
Just come for these are which absolutely. And 10 years ago, or let's say 15 years ago, if this was happening, maybe I'd see where they're coming from. Today, if that is going on, if the story is not actually supposed to be 3 hours and is 3 hours because of these factors, that is songs or extended fights, then I think it's a shame.
So which movies do you like? Don't say that I go the content wise. In average or broad aspect, is foreign movies better than Indian movies?
But if I had to just talk about my headspace in the theater, if I like all very not so well-known actors to just sit over there and perform, but while they're speaking my language, while I know the template on which this movie is running, the environment in which the characters are, they're very familiar to me. That's easier to swallow than a South Korean and Hollywood hybrid film that boasts of a terrific screenplay. So again, after I get out of the theater, after both the movies, I will come out and say Past Lives blew my mind. But which did I find it easier to go into and which did I sit through more comfortably? It's definitely the Indian movies.
So Indian movies is like the comfort food to go through, like it's a dal bhat. Like anything you could do, any dal bhat you give, I'll add some like Lay's chips or any kurkure to it, and I'll enjoy it rather than choosing the like half baked any pasta types. Not judging, but
doesn't need to be half baked. Even if it is fantastic pasta in a 5-star restaurant, it wouldn't. I would still have dal
pani puri.
And rasam and pani puri back near my house. Then go to this place every day. Once in a while, sure, I'd like to have that. But generally, this is the pani puri, this is the dal rice that I rely on.
One thing I kind of see a problem in the Indian films right now is the second half. Like after the post interval scenes. So there is a lot of shift between the first half and the second half. After the interval, we kind of see a wholly new movie at all. Like and we get some disconnect between those two. So how to continue, like how to blur the break between those. And the second half is mostly so low and it's not satisfactory yet when compared to the first half in the interval, pre-interval or the interval. The second half, pre-climax, up to the pre-climax, the whole movie gets so low and down. So what are the change do you see on what is the problem do you want to address?
Okay. Before we start discussing this, I want to ask you, what is the last movie that you can think of where you felt like the second half was better than the first half? But quite a few films, and this is a problem that's been there down here in the South for the last 6 or 7 years, that very valid critics have pointed out that second half, we're unable to maintain the momentum in the second half. I have a theory for this, but before I tell my theory, I want to ask you and even think for myself, what was the last film that I saw where I thought the second half was better than the first half? I'll give you one. What do you think about Rangastalam? Rangastalam,
it's cool. Yeah. It's properly continued, right? Like it doesn't seem the interval is pre-planned. The interval is pre-planned actually. He knows where to cut and where to give a break. So to continue the second half, it's a perfect thing. And the last thing, I don't remember the last thing, but I remember the movie called Kick, which is all remade into Bollywood. But the original one, Kick, the second half is totally new. Like a new setup, new location and new characters also. But it doesn't feel like you're disconnecting from the whole movie. So the continuation, it looks seamless to me in the Kick movie. The thing I remember.
There's actually a pattern that any usual, I don't want to use the word commercial filmmaker, but anyone who's making a normal let's say a Telugu film or a Hindi film, there's a pattern that is to be followed in the screenplay. Have you seen La La Land?
No.
Yes, La La Land is a prime example, and you should definitely watch it. It's one of the greatest of the last decade. La La Land is an example where the last 10 minutes, that's it, 10 or 12 minutes, it made the film from a very good film to a fucking masterpiece. So I seriously believe when we say that the problem is with the second half of any story is where the conflict starts to get resolved, or you have a look at how the conflict is getting resolved and the aftermath of the conflict, the aftermath of what happens. But when you stick the ending, when you stick the ending as in how the story ends, you do it well. That is what you remember. Of course, today when you watch movies on your laptop and on your TV, maybe the ending, I'm not sure how much of a part it plays. I'm sure it plays a part, but when we're watching movies in a theater and there's a very strong, solid ending, I think we walk out saying that this is a lovely film. So is the problem with second halves? Definitely. But the problem with second halves has been for a long time. And the problem, I believe, is that our people are not understanding how to end their stories, how to reach that conclusion. It's not organic enough.
Do you like after watching these many movies, like we see hero portrays a character of a good nature human. Like he is good, he stands for the rule, and he's like a copy of a Ram, like Lord Sri Ram. Some characteristics is borrowed from Sri Ram. So do you think the same hero structures to be continued, or anti-heroes? Do you like anti-heroes or heroes?
See, I like both. I can't exactly choose what I like because now when we say anti-heroes, can you give me an example? What kind?
See, the thing I see about movies is the idea. If the movie is giving me some idea, or the movie is giving some what can I say? Some philosophy or some idea to me, it generates some idea. I like the movie or I like the film. I don't see the presentation. Like I don't care about the presentation. I don't care about the movie at all. If the movie is generating me some ideas and some excitement, I like the movie. So in the sense, I say these movies. And if we talk about anti-heroes, okay, you give me an example. Say I am out of some thoughts.
Anti-heroes. Anti-heroes is anything. I feel like
Selfish.
Hmm?
Selfish, right? Anti-heroes are selfish kind of.
Maybe, yeah, sure, why not? See, when we're talking about anti-heroes, are we talking about antagonists being the protagonists, or are we talking about some Robin Hood kind of structure where they are, where they're heroes fighting? No, Robin Hood is a good hero, right? But someone who fights for themselves, that's an anti-hero, right?
Yeah.
I think Jay Lavakusha, Jay is a very good. Jay is a very good example from Jay Lavakusha.
Okay.
Do I feel like I enjoy watching actors perform such roles. Sure, Ravanasura had a horrible payoff. Even with
I understood that. Even the V also.
We also did not have a good payoff. Absolutely not. Then again, Jay Lavakusha was a very half-baked film, I felt, but held by very good performance from Junior NTR. But you see, the entire point of good versus bad, it's a very old idea, the Ram versus Ravan kind of stories. You see any Rajmouli film, you have all white versus black fighting. You have good people fighting bad people. It's as clear as it can be. And a little bit in Sukumar, you have gray shades. You sometimes sympathize with the villain and all that, and you sometimes hate your protagonist. Have you seen Maviran recently?
Oh yeah, that's totally unique story. Like keeping the checklist of any commercial movies, but presenting it unique.
But what a lovely film that was. But if you think about it, it also runs on very black and white shades itself. The bad people are bad, the good people are good, but it doesn't exactly feel like a Vikramarkudu-esque movie. It feels like a very organic hero versus villain movie. So I feel like if that's done right, then I'd enjoy a normal Ram versus Ravan, because they're sticking to the basics and doing it well.